Hello, my friends. You know, I am here to talk about the subject that most people never want to talk about, and that has kind of become what you know me for. I definitely appreciate your support. All my books are free, so this is not a sales pitch, but I did want to chat about something I heard the other day, actually on the news. My name is Kathy Weaver, and I am the author of several books, two of which are about grief, bereavement, and final wishes. And I love being able to start the conversation. Sometimes it's a lively conversation, sometimes it's a painful conversation, sometimes it's a super sad conversation. But the bottom line for many of us is it needs to be had. We have to have these conversations. So, death, dying, survivorship, final wishes, all of those things are parts of two of my books. And again, for you, they're free. So, again, this is not a sales pitch. The other day on the news, and I listen to that very seldom, by the way, but the other day on the news, somebody said he died unexpectedly. So I started thinking, what the heck is unexpected death? I understand the topic, but my friends, in my opinion, we're not getting out of here alive. Now, the unexpected piece could be the shock, as in they weren't sick, nothing, they just died. And I have had that experience personally several times, actually. And it is a shock, yes, but especially, I guess you would say, depending upon your belief system, you know where they are now. We're all going to die. That's a given. We all know babies that don't survive. We all know people that have lived to be 100 or more, and they're doing fantastic. We know people who are in their 20s and 30s in hospice care. We know people in their 90s who are bungee jumping. Everyone's life is different for sure. How people handle death and the topic of last wishes, everyone handles that a bit differently too. Hats off to the hospice workers, especially the ones who have recently made their business, if you will, public, their mission, their ministry. The more we know about something, the less scary it can be. Again, that prompted my books. He Hit the Clouds Running and Never Looked Back was published in 2017. It's on my YouTube channel, Kathy Weaver KC, and it's on a playlist, He Hit the Clouds Running. So you can listen to the whole book in its entirety. It only takes about an hour. And it's just what to say and what not to say when someone has died, in my opinion, and how you can learn some skills that have helped me cope. I've had a lot of experiences in the death department since the 1960s, and holy moly, those experiences have intensified over these years, literally. And the most recent book, myfinalfootprints.com, gets its own website. Don't leave your family in a scavenger hunt. The reason, again, for these books is there are so many different experiences that people have. The unexpected part just triggered for me. People feel that if I this and I that and I something, I'm never going to die. Other people feel, who cares? I'm going to die anyway. Everyone has a different opinion about the topic. And my purpose for my books, the grief journey books especially, has been to have a dialogue open up. You can now talk to your friends about it. Have you ever read My Final Footprints? Oh, what? Have you ever printed off My Final Footprints? Don't leave your family in a scavenger hunt. We've talked about that before on these podcasts. Please think about the unexpected death part. Sometimes we have been caregivers for family members and friends in hospice. Sometimes we've been caregivers in our own homes. Sometimes people have been in nursing homes, elder care facilities, I believe they're called now, and they did not survive. Some of them have had I've had literally 2 or 3 day hospice person, unexpected. I've had literally 8 month hospice person. Now, on that topic, I would like to say, in my experience, you can't pre grieve either, which means you have a person who has a diagnosis and it ain't good. And the medical professionals give them 6 months to live, a year to live, 2 days to live, whatever. And you're kind of counting down the days because you anticipate at some point, here comes the final day for that person. Now, the trained professionals understand the active dying process. And if you don't know what that is, for heaven's sakes, check with the hospice videos that are out there because they are very graphic. So, heads up. But most of the time, they're very explicit and they help us through the final pieces of a body's actively dying process. Why do I talk about this stuff? Hang on a second. As I said, I don't want you to be broadsided. Sudden death is super hard, unexpected. It's not unexpected. We're all going to die. You go to work one day, you don't come home. You go to sleep one night, you don't wake up. Some people have chosen to end their lives. I've actually experienced suicide. I mentioned that in my book as well. And so each type of death, if you will, is difficult. You've got someone in hospice for a year and a half, and you can't pre-grieve because the second they take their last breath, all of a sudden the grief process starts. Now, it may continue and certainly intensify, but for me, now the grief really happens because before you change from a caregiver to a person in bereavement. So, as I said, the unexpected, just as soon as I heard that word on the news, I was like, he died unexpectedly. And I was like, I really need to address this, in my opinion, because when you hear that, the unexpected part is, again, you don't wake up, you get hit by a car, you fall down the steps and it doesn't end well, whatever that looks like. But the unexpected part is, and again, in my He Hit the Clouds Running book, I call it homecoming, depending upon your belief system. We know where they are. It's not unexpected for me. Death is simply a part of life, and it's part of this journey. And those of us left behind, in my opinion, again, we're here to help other people through the experience. And for me, that has been the coolest thing ever. I so appreciate those of you who have reached out before and said, oh my gosh, this launched my podcast. This launched my book. This launched my opportunity to speak with my loved ones. That just lights me up. So thank you for that. That's the purpose of this for me. I want people to be able to talk about that stuff we never want to talk about. Unexpected death, lingering death, suicide, instant death, sudden death. There's so many topics, but as I said, the bottom line is we're not getting out of this alive. The more we know about it, the more we talk about it. All of a sudden, when it finally does happen to someone that we know, love, and care about, it's not that big shock that it would be if you were not, shall we say, prepared or at least aware that there are survival skills. I love when people say, how long did it take you to get over whoever it is they're talking about? And I'm like, get over. For me, it's not a get over conversation. It's peace. It's a part of who we are. And that never goes away, in my opinion. And so grief counselors, folks like that, you have a 1 year something limit. And now the 1 year anniversary comes up and you're all cured. Well, if that works for you, that is fantastic. That has not been my experience. And I do feel the more you talk about the topic, the more you talk about the person, then all of a sudden you kind of go, huh. And plus, you want them to leave a footprint on your heart. Absolutely. But for me, myfinalfootprints.com, especially, is an opportunity to start that conversation. So when you hear something on the news, unexpected death, battle with cancer, or whatever the topic is, he lost his fight with cancer. He lost his battle, whatever that looks like, the way people phrase it. The bottom line is, if you have a belief system that you know where they are, they've gone to heaven, whatever that looks like in your belief, then that is kind of a peace part for me. It's peaceful to know that you actually know where that person is. Unexpected, absolutely, I suppose. Shock, okay. But if we know ahead of time we are all going to die, okay, that's a given. The body, the human body actually wears out. And sometimes it's sudden, sometimes it's a disease, sometimes it's a linger. Whatever that is, myfinalfootprints.com might be your platform to start the conversation that nobody wants to talk about. I am for, it's funny when people see me now, I network a lot. And when people see me now, they call me the death whisperer. There's actually a person who owns that. So I don't want to infringe on that part. But isn't that a funny thing? You're known for death, bereavement, hospice, final footprints. He hit the clouds running, whatever that is. But the death journey part, we're all going to go through it. Some of us have a different story. And so, whatever your story is, hopefully you will find it in your heart to blog about it, to chat about it, to podcast about it, because it helps other people. In my opinion, we're all in this together. We need to help each other as we go through each experience. And the experiences that we learn from might help someone else. So, unexpected death, what the heck is that? I'm Kathy Weaver. He hit the clouds running and never looked back. Myfinalfootprints.com. Don't leave your family in a scavenger hunt. I hope that these publications bless you. Bye for now, my friends.